Hi, this is Colin Twiggs from Incredible Charts. I'm here today with Niv Dagan from Peak Asset Management. We're here to discuss the results of the US election and how we plan to position our portfolios to cope with the changes. Were you taken by surprise by the election result in the US? Was it something you were expecting? You know, the betting markets were all predicting a Trump win. Um,
Well,
uh,
yeah, absolutely. I think. I mean, towards the start of the election, Colin, the definitely the betting market was more even, and as the day progressed, we did see that move towards Trump, and we saw those Dow futures go up. We saw the Russell 2000 go move, and the Bitcoin and crypto. So and the future markets as well with the interest rates, with the 10-year bond rates and 5 years. So yeah, look, I mean, it was a decision that market was positive about. Um, but overall, it was it's been a mixed and subdued day in small caps here and on the ASX today.
all right. Yeah, you could basically see that the market was still undecided. In fact, it almost at one stage went a little bit towards a Harris victory, just in the early times. And then about 6 p.m., you saw the bond market suddenly take off,
Mm.
and the dollar strengthened. And then everything, all hell broke loose from there, with the dollar strengthening against everything. Um, scaring the pants off of the gold investors.
Mm.
But it went up against copper. It went up against all the base metals. It went up against the forex crosses,
Mm.
Japanese yen, Chinese yuan, the euro. They all got hammered. Just this super strong dollar, and everyone. Well, I don't know if everyone was, but I was scratching my head and sort of wondering, well, why the strong dollar? What's going on? It's obviously because of Trump's tariffs, is it?
Well, I mean, Trump's policies are a lot more inflationary, right? So the market is expecting more spending, bigger tax cuts, as you mentioned, sort of more tariffs, keeping everything in the US. That leads to potential inflation. The market has, worked so hard in the last 12 or 18 months to keep inflation on the lid, on the down low. And we've seen that 5-year and 10-year bond rates really increase significantly, driving US dollar higher. And commodities are obviously inversely related to the US dollar. So as US dollar goes up, commodities such as you mentioned, gold, copper, silver, zinc, nickel, have really, fallen sharply in the last 24 hours.
Now, copper specifically, you'd look at copper and say, well, copper's falling because there's concerns over the tariffs' impact on China and the
Mm.
fact that the Chinese economy may contract, which means that demand for copper from China, the biggest buyer of copper and producer of copper in the world. Um, so demand for copper would shrink, and obviously as soon as the election results became clear, the market started selling copper basically.
I agree there. I mean, it looks like it wants to head lower. The Chinese, obviously, market has been quite volatile the last month. We saw that stimulus and potential rate cuts and interest regarding the Chinese market, but then it's really fallen away. So copper's a really strong sort of leading indicator for global growth. So copper driving lower is also a bit of a concern for markets as a whole. But hopefully it does form a bit of a base. And we saw that as well, Colin, with gold. I mean, gold, it's been, UBS has touted at 2,750 an ounce in US dollars, has surpassed that 4,000 Australian dollars an ounce as well just recently. Fell by about $80 or $90 an ounce at one stage, which was quite a significant fall. But it does look on the trend line, and those at home listening, it looks like it's forming it's still on the lower part of that bottom trend line. So it does really need a hold today, I think.
Yeah, I'm very confident about the long-term prospects for gold, basically, because um, it didn't matter really whether Harris got in or Trump got in. They were both going to run big deficits, and
Mm.
inflation isn't going to stay dormant for long. It's bound to you can already see it in the ISM, the PMI numbers in the States for manufacturing and for services, where
Yeah.
basically the prices, uh, even with manufacturing is contracting, but they've still got price issues with the prices sub-index at about 54.6, I think, or something like that. So um, it's still running hot. There's still inflation in the economy. The Fed's cutting interest rates, and you've got all these campaign promises with tax cuts and big spending. Um, so you know, I'd be very surprised if inflation stays tame for long.
And I think that's the major
So,
concern for the markets, and that's what we saw in the last 24 hours, where whether you think that those policies will translate into further interest rate cuts. I mean, the market at one stage was definitely pricing in another 50 basis points cut probably between now and Christmas in the US, we're referring to, not here in Australia. And maybe that's been pushed back a little bit. So that is sending bond yields higher, the US dollar, putting pressure on commodities. So I think it's just a matter of digesting. Colin, I just wanted to ask you as well. I mean, what's your views on the whole cryptocurrency and it looks like that Bitcoin and crypto digital assets, it looks like it's broken up to the upside. So what's your view there?
well, I think it's a more favorable regulatory environment that the crypto investors see.
Mm,
I don't invest in crypto, but I use crypto as a monitor for market liquidity. It's actually a very good
mm,
indicator of market liquidity. When crypto is rising, it means there's a lot of liquidity flowing into the market. Um, it's the highest risk asset basically in the marketplace. And Elon Musk, close to Trump, he's always been a bit of a crypto bro. Um, there was at one stage I think Tesla were actually taking Bitcoin for Teslas. So and he had an investment in Bitcoin at one stage in Tesla. So I can see a more favorable environment for
mm.
crypto in terms of US regulation.
Yeah. Well, Elon was a big advocate of Trump and his policies. And in after hours, I don't know if you watched the Tesla stock price, but it was up about 13 or 14% pre-market. So yeah, I mean they're definitely a beneficiary, and probably Trump needs to say
Mm.
thank you, and Elon needs to say thank you. So I think they'll remain good friends.
Oh yeah, I think Elon has positioned himself very very well, very close to Trump, and Trump's talking about appointing him as some kind of czar of the
Hmm.
economy or finances or something. I'm not sure it would be a good idea to do it, but he's a bit skeptical about um, the alignment of their goals. It's just
Hmm.
a matter of Elon's goal is to become the richest man on the planet, which he is
Yeah.
already, I think, or close to it. And um, the best way to protect your wealth and to grow it is to get close to the guy who's going to have his hand on the lever, basically,
Yeah.
in terms of regulation. Um, so he's positioned himself and Tesla very well.
And Colin, just before we jump off, I mean, how do you position portfolios right now? Um, I mean, do you think that US dollar is going to continue? What's the charts telling you? Do you think copper and gold and commodities will continue to fall? Is the Nasdaq still looking strong? Technology companies are still benefiting. How do you, if you're an investor, how do you see your position in your portfolio based on what's happening?
Well, first of all, you know, bonds, treasuries, and long-term corporate bonds, obviously seriously underweight those because of the inflation concerns. Um, and then overweight gold for the same reason, basically,
Hmm.
long-term inflation concerns. In terms of stocks, just off the top of my head, obviously defense stocks are suddenly going to be a flavor of the month.
Yeah.
Um, uh, defense. I'm very favorable towards, the strategic metals and the transition from carbon fuels to uh, electricity-based energy, and so the long-term prospect for metals like copper, even
Mm.
lithium, especially Elon being close to Trump, there's more of a chance that the US is more favorable to electric vehicles.
Yeah.
Um, the heavy electrics, your Hitachi and General Electric, they've all got a nuclear arm. Nuclear is another area where there's bound to be a lot of growth, and there was bound to be a lot of growth. Even Democrat or Republican, didn't matter.
Mm.
I think that's one thing they probably agree on. Value stocks, yes. The traditional technology stocks, high multiple growth stocks, um, bit wary of those at present,
Yeah.
obviously because uh, the, the prospect of higher inflation and higher long-term interest rates, and that would affect your earnings multiples.
Yeah.
So that would be the
Well, Colin, I mean, it's been a good discussion. I've really enjoyed it, and love what you're doing. Obviously, at Peak, and I want to say thanks very much for having us as well. And yeah, I mean, look forward to doing more of these. And yeah, it's great to be here as well, and appreciate your time today.
well. Thanks, Niv. Good to catch up with you again, and let's hope things calm down a bit and we can position our portfolios to weather the storm of the next few years.